So, every time summer rolls around, Pride Month becomes the discourse. I've done a few videos over the years myself talking about some of the nonsense that's cropped up ever since we transitioned away from Pride being a one-day holiday with a parade born out of protests for legalizing gay marriage. I even remember attending a couple of those events back in the 2000s, the protests anyway, and it wasn't full of degeneracy or public sex or kink at Pride, it was just gay people, dressed respectably, protesting for their rights. Pride had not yet morphed into a month-long nightmare of constant LGBT flags and logos and stickers everywhere, where if you have an objection to an old man in tidy whities twerking and gyrating and undulating in front of children at your local Pride event, you are a bigot. Yes, that actually happened this year. I wonder if YouTube will demonetize this video for showing that clip. I don't see why. It's all over the internet right now, being presented positively by LGBT organizations. But then again, there's different rules for the activists than there is for the rest of us. But even in that clip, you can see that people are beginning to get weirded out. A lot of the kids in attendance either look away or look disgusted, even as their oblivious millennial parents smile and clap at the inclusivity of it all. This one kid here, he's what, 9, 10 years old? Look at his face. He looks like he's gonna go back to his friends later and tell a ridiculous tall tale about the fat, bald, 60-year-old man who shook his naked ass at him. A story that his friends will not believe until he pulls out video proof. This kid doesn't look traumatized like some of the others, but he's also clearly not into it. He looks like, internally, he's mocking the ridiculousness of the whole thing. And that is one of the main reasons that I didn't talk about this year's Pride Month, during Pride Month. It feels like it's running out of steam, doesn't it? It feels like more and more people are ignoring Pride Month's existence. When those people are forced to engage with Pride Month, they tend to mock it rather than embrace it. Like that kid who's gonna bust out laughing any second now. That seems to be the common reaction of a lot of these kids right now. Yes, there was that video clip from yesterday's TikTok Tuesday where kids somewhere in the UK were giving pushback against their woke teacher.
How dare you? You've just really upset someone. Saying things like should be in an asylum.
I didn't say that. I just said if they want to identify as a cat or something, then they're like genuinely unwell.
Then they've gone
they're crazy.
You were questioning their identity.
No, I wasn't a question. I was just saying about the gender. I didn't say anything about them.
But where did you get this idea from that there's only two genders?
I just think it's my opinion.
That is my opinion.
If I respect their opinion, can't they respect my opinion?
It is not an opinion. There are lots of genders. There is transgender. There is agender, people that don't believe they have a gender at all.
Yeah, but you can't have that.
You can't have that. It's not a law.
Yeah, but it's not a law, but it's our opinion. We just don't agree with it. We just think it's all just.
If you have a vagina, you're a girl. If you have a penis, you're a boy.
Yeah, you can't have a vagina and be a girl. But then
unless you get surgery, and even then, because you've got those genes.
How you identity. How you identify.
Yeah,
it's not an opinion that we express in this school.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. And if you don't like it, you need to go to a different school. So I'm reporting you to Miss Willis. You need to have a proper educational conversation about equality, diversity and inclusion. Because I'm not having that expressed in my lesson.
But there was also a huge shit show about a middle school in Burlington having their official Pride celebration mocked by the students.
It would be naive of us to think that what happened at the middle school won't escalate into something more tragic in the future.
The acceptance and visibility of LGBTQIA people is not being shoved down your throats, it's being normalized, finally, and thank goodness.
The co-chair of the Burlington Equity Coalition said that students were invited to wear rainbow clothing on June 2nd in celebration of Pride Month. On that same day, there was a counter-demonstration in response to what should have been a day to celebrate. Students wore red, white, and blue clothing, chanted "My pronouns are USA," and destroyed rainbow decorations at the school. In Connecticut, a Pride video was shown to kids without informing the parents. The video contained young children talking about what it was like to identify as other genders. The video led to parents protesting at the school board, outraged that they weren't informed about what was being shown.
Pride means you should be able to be free. All my life I never really felt like a boy, and I don't really feel like a girl, so I'd rather be both.
The same way we keep religion, politics, everything out of school, keep sexuality out of school, leave it to the parents.
Now, I'm not being asked to be notified about everything that goes across the principal's desk, but I think there should be some sensitivity, because I expect my kids to go to school to be challenged in many ways. This is a situation where they were challenged in a way that maybe I didn't expect.
In California, the same thing happened. Videos shown to students without parental knowledge. This time, the students complained, and they were threatened with discipline by the teacher.
Wow, Miss Clark. Wow. Why are you showing this to kids?
Hey, I'll warn you guys now, if you're going to be inappropriate, I will have supervision down and give all of you a Saturday school for next year. So knock it off.
In New York, parents claimed that middle school kids were pressured into a day of silence, not speaking for a full day, not as a part of Pride Month this time, but instead on the LGBT Day of Remembrance, which was back on April 14th. Students were handed a pledge card that read, "Please understand my reasons for not speaking today." My deliberate silence echoes that silence, which is caused by anti-LGBT bullying, name-calling, and harassment. I believe that ending the silence is the first step towards building awareness and making a commitment to address these injustices. The school's Pride group went around handing the cards out and asked students to sign them. The students reported not being forced to sign the pledge cards, but also reported that it was heavily implied that those who didn't participate were going to be singled out for further action against them. Here in Canada, in a Catholic high school in Ontario, the school voted to remain true to their values and not fly the pride flag. The Ontario provincial government said that they hoped the school would come around and do the right thing, but would not force the school to do so because of free speech. Ontario's provincial government has been conservative for a while, and the Conservatives are the only faction who care about free speech in Canada right now. Some of the Catholic school's students decided to protest that decision.
This walkout at St. Brother Andre in Markham was intended as an opportunity to support 2S LGBTQ+ students at a time where the York Catholic Board has ruled to not raise the pride flag for Pride Month.
By the way, the acronym 2S LGBTQ+ is, as far as I can tell, a Canada-specific variant of the usual LGBT. 2S stands for Two-Spirit or Twin Spirit, which is a gender non-conforming identity among some of Canada's Indigenous tribes. And because Canada likes to flog itself eternally over the treatment of the natives, the Two-Spirit shit has become a cornerstone of Canadian pride discourse. Oh, also, if the whole Two-Spirit thing makes you think it's some deep part of Aboriginal culture from the pre-colonial period, it's not. It was invented in 1990 by activists who wanted to differentiate homosexuality as it was culturally practiced by natives versus modern Western homosexuality, and it's been slowly pushed on Canadians ever since then.
It's weird that they're prioritizing the comfort of the parents rather than the safety of the students.
But messages like this were quickly drowned out by the noise of a rowdy crowd. Students tearing through pride posters and dancing on pride flags.
So, we've got instances of parents slowly waking up to what's happening under their noses and getting pissed about it. But we've also got the kids themselves fucking around. I'm sure that at least some of these kids are ideologically against the LGBT stuff, but I don't think that's most of them. I think for most of them, they're just rebelling. I mentioned this concept back in, I think, my Nostalgia as Fascism video, where I spent a lot of time personally skipping official school functions, not because I hated the topics or I was ideologically opposed to them or something, but because I was lazy. I liked ditching school to play Smash Bros with my friends whenever I could. And whenever the entire class was marching down to the auditorium, there was always an opportunity to lag behind the crowd a bit and slip away around a corner or something. Most of these kids don't hate the gays or the tranners or whatever, they're just doing what teenagers do, rebelling against the system they're in. When the system was run by boomers forcing Christianity down everyone's throats, like when I was a kid, we rebelled with atheism and Satanism and the edgy irony of the 2000s. Now that the system is run by woke millennials, teens are rebelling by being anti-social justice. Same mechanism, different direction. Meanwhile, for some other people, it actually is an ideological disagreement. For example, Muslim students in Alberta skipped pride events at their school and hung out at the mall instead. They were reprimanded by their teacher, but one of the kids secretly recorded the tongue lashing and sent it to the media.
Well, I'll tell you, you were out to lunch. If you think it's acceptable to not show up because you think there's some pride activities going on at school, right? Oh, that's fine. You know, because I'm going to show my opinion by hanging out at the mall. If you want to be respected for who you are, if you don't want to suffer prejudice for your religion, your color of skin, your whatever, then you got to give it back to people who are different from you. That's how it works. It's an exchange. And it isn't like that in all countries. As I told you, in Uganda, literally, if they think you're gay, they will execute you. If you believe that kind of thing, then you don't belong here. Because that is not what Canada believes. We believe in freedom. We believe that people can marry whomever they want. That is in the law. And if you don't think that should be the law, you can't be Canadian. You don't belong here, and I mean it.
Oh man, we've reached a point where a white person is telling a brown person they can't be Canadian. Talk about coming full circle. In Ottawa, a school board decreed all students to be non-binary until the students explicitly declared their gender, making this proclamation in the name of neutrality. This went viral due to a tweet that said, after the school board told all teachers to call all kids by they/them pronouns permanently. I looked up the actual school policy, and the school board didn't tell teachers to do it, but it did heavily encourage them to do so. The implication being that while teachers didn't have to comply, compliant teachers would be rewarded with tenured positions or other perks. In response, Muslim families held a protest where they teamed up with Christian parents to push back against teaching LGBT content in elementary schools.
We stand together as a Canadian people, as a Muslim and a Christian, to protect our children.
From them, from that.
Yes!
We don't need that or our children.
Leave our kids alone!
Leave our kids alone!
Leave our kids alone!
A video also went viral of Muslim children at the event stomping on pride flags.
All right, we're here currently at the protest. We got a bunch of young kids here with their Arab parents, and they are stomping the pride flag here at the protest. The Arab community is sending a message, I believe, to the woke.
Back in America, Muslim parents in Maryland protested the school board's LGBT curriculum, demanding the right to pull their kids from those classes.
Protect our children! Protect our children! Protect our children! Protect our children! Protect our children!
In response, a Maryland councilwoman, Kristen Mink, stated that anti-LGBT Muslims were white supremacists.
This issue has unfortunately put some, and not all of course, but some Muslim families on the same side of an issue as white supremacists and outright bigots.
She eventually apologized after a massive backlash. A Muslim student in the area spoke to the local council and made it clear that while her community viewed this as an attack on their culture, she didn't necessarily want the school to stop teaching this stuff. She just wanted the schools to allow parents to pull their kids out of those classes, an option that was legally removed in Maryland.
Neither religious nor secular voices should be silenced. Religion is not just private worship. It involves public expression on social and moral issues. Pluralistic societies that value human dignity and do not view faith communities as a problem to be eliminated will only thrive and prosper. I respectfully request the restoration of the opt-out option at MCPS. Thank you. Takbir.
Every time I do a video like this, I feel older and older, because when I was a kid, this was just the norm. Parents had the option to pull their kids out of sex ed, or out of classes that spoke about world religions in a way they disapproved of. Those kids were put in an empty classroom and they were given an alternate lesson, or they did their homework or something. When I was a student, we all made fun of the kids whose parents opted them out, because it seemed kind of silly. But it was ultimately their right, and the idea of a school where you couldn't pull your kid out of a controversial class seemed scary, not just silly. But we have actually moved into that reality. It's not just Maryland in the States that has removed the right for parents to opt out their children. An Ontario Ministry of Education official has stated, in response to a Toronto protest over Drag Queen Story Hour at a school, that allowing students to opt out of the event would raise concerns about emboldening environments and acts of hate. A family who wanted to pull their kids from LGBTQ events at a York district school was told by the school board that the board is not in a position to accommodate students to be exempted from critical discussions about fundamental human rights. Asking for students to be removed from developing an understanding of equity and inclusion does not fit into the definition of accommodation, and in fact contradicts the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and Ontario Human Rights Code. And the general consensus among progressive thought leaders and pundits is that LGBT content should not be able to be skipped for the same reason that math or science shouldn't be skipped. Because these aren't philosophical conversations open to debate, but a matter of normalized and settled education essential to the curriculum. By the way, I know not many teenagers or even younger actually listen to me, but if you are one, leave a comment so I know. And take my advice. If you're told by your school to go to a pride event or whatever, just skip it. Yeah, you'll get in trouble. Maybe you'll get sent to the principal's office. Maybe you'll get yelled at. Maybe you'll even get suspended. But you know what? It doesn't actually matter. That permanent record doesn't exist. If you intend to go to university after high school, even if you've been expelled, you can still do it. Instead of graduating from high school, just get your GED. It's as good as a diploma. And universities are significantly more lenient for people who have taken a year off to work a real job and then come back to school. I know the school system beats into your head that you have to pass and you have to graduate, or else you'll be living in a crack shack down by the river. But that's just to scare you and keep you in line. You do need the GED, but you don't need the school system. They have nothing to threaten you with. So do what I would do if I were still a kid. Don't comply. Not because you should hate the gays or something, but because, frankly, it's good to stick it to people who believe it's their job to control your political views. I started this video by saying that Pride has run out of steam, and yet this entire time we've been talking about all of these instances of more fucked up things happening with regards to Pride. Way more than previous years, in fact. But the only reason these stories are making headlines is because normal people are pushing back against them. They didn't do that 5 years ago. The few people who did were just shouted down as bigots. Normies watched social media accounts and YouTube channels get deleted. They watched people get fired, people get cancelled, and so they kept their mouths shut. But getting called a bigot or a homophobe or a transphobe or a Nazi is so normalized at this point, nobody cares anymore. The LGBT activists behind Pride are still going full steam ahead, but the normies are actually revolting against them now, something they didn't do back in 2018 or 2016. Even rainbow capitalism is pretty much done. Fewer and fewer corpos are virtue signaling about being down with the cause, as LGBT acceptance drops. Socialists who once screamed about how they needed queer liberation, not rainbow capitalism, how the corpos were evil even as they parroted progressive politics, are now screaming that the corpos have dared to abandon their politics. How dare you not be pro-LGBT, even though we hate you while you support us and our terrible fucking behavior, which causes anybody we're allied with to get boycotted. You're supposed to take massive financial losses while letting us shit on you for clout, you bigot. And this is all the fault of the progressives in the end. It was never actually about drag queens or gay people or even trans people. The idea that the state should regulate the sexual behavior of consenting adults, even if traditional conservatives found it to be immoral, is an idea that was a loser. But progressives didn't stop with that victory. They didn't stop with gay marriage. They didn't stop with reasonable legal protections, like how you can't fire somebody just for being gay or trans. All that stuff was where the progressive argument made sense. But they didn't stop where they made sense. The progressives decided they were entitled to march into schools, turn children into activists, mock parents for their bigoted right-wing beliefs, and then deny them the right to pull the kids from the class because the progressive state knows best and believes itself to be the owner of the nation's children. The bureaucracy of the LGBT movement, its foundations, its organizations, its charities, its talking heads, its celebrities, that didn't just go away once marriage rights and passive tolerance were won. There was just too much money in it. It had to find, or invent, new problems. And here we are in 2023, with the progs defending drag shows for kids and 13-year-old mastectomies because there is literally nothing left to fight over. Actually, maybe that's their 6D underwater backgammon play. That passive tolerance is now going away due to the left's push. One district in the USA has already banned pride flags on public property, though it is a majority Muslim district. By the way, good job being queers against Islamophobia, you retards. Yeah, just let a whole bunch of gay haters into the West. That's a good fucking idea.
Today I want to talk about why I, as a queer person, support Muslims.
But maybe the play is, the LGBT bureaucracy now has something new to fight over. The exact same territory they already won 15 years ago, that they're now losing due to their own dogmatic zealotry. Nah, that's not the actual play. They're just dogmatic zealots. The left's revolutionary attitude, smashing barriers and destroying institutions, it makes sense when there's actual prejudice, actual injustices. For example, the rare time that a cop actually unjustly kills an unarmed black man and gets away with it. The very rare time, it turns out. The public should burn down police stations and courthouses for that shit. But is that happening now? Where's the trans genocide? Where's the discrimination against gay people? Where's the LGBT murders or whatever? It's not fucking happening. Now that gay marriage is legal and adults can transition, we've reached that neutral point, that liberal tolerance. What is left for the progressives to burn down? The answer to that is simple: goodwill and decency. Alright, thanks for watching everyone. It feels good to be back in the saddle once again. If you caught this video on release, right after it comes out, I'm going to be streaming, so how about you pop over and say hi? Do it. You're contractually obligated. I'll see you there, guys. I love you.